Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project. And Pat, we're talking to Charles Thomas from ABC 7 about all of the state races and the implications of various outcome scenarios. One thing we didn't talk about, we might mention, I've gotten a lot of questions about this on the morning show that I do on AM 560, 5 to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday with Amy Jacobson, Chicago's Morning Answer. But the questions is about the One Ballot initiative that's gotten actually a good deal of airtime. There's some interest that have put some money behind a yes vote for the quote-unquote Lockbox amendment. This is to protect, essentially, is the argument, state transportation funds to enshrine their protection in the Illinois Constitution so that Illinois politicians and the General Assembly couldn't raid those funds and use them for purposes other than transportation. Yeah.
So my feeling, first of all, Dan, on constitutional amendments is, we want to be careful about what we do a constitutional amendment on, right? I mean, you don't want to have, that's supposed to be something that sort of guarantees our liberties. And then after that, the legislator is supposed to be the will of the people along with the governor. With respect to the lockbox idea, my typical feeling on this is if they're using use taxes, in other words, like toll taxes or something where
motor fuel
and toll, then it shouldn't be put into the general fund, right? There's a purpose for those use taxes. People who are using the roads, people who are, driving on them are helping to pay to keep the roads in place. But if it's more than that, then it's a little bit of a different scenario.
I know the Illinois Policy Institute has, Ted Dabrowski, VP of Policy over there, come out with an op-ed in opposition to it, and I'm inclined to agree with him to oppose it. The power of the purse resides with the legislative branch, and you could do this with every dedicated fund, enshrine it in the Constitution, rather than requiring the General Assembly to come up with a constitutionally balanced budget, which is enshrined in the Constitution, and they don't do that, or at least they haven't in 15 years. That's quite a long time to be in violation of a core tenet of the Constitution. And so, if you want people to abide the black letter of the Constitution and of statutory law, then elect a better class of legislators. Otherwise, you're going to get the representation that you deserve, and we've continued to be afflicted with.
Yeah, and your point about the balanced budget's a good one because, okay, let's say that this thing got enacted and it was put in the Constitution. Is anybody going to pay attention to it?
Yeah, right.
They don't pay attention to the balanced budget amendment. They don't pay attention to all kinds of requirements.
The Constitution is a workaround when it is in opposition to their interests, and it's used as a shield when it's to defend their interests. But it's not because they have any respect for the law or the Constitution. They're just advancing their interests.
Yeah, see, so what I think this really is the legislature is so bad and has been so bad over the last however long period of time that people who care about things, spending, liberty, things of that nature, are looking for vehicles, avenues to get around that.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is. Like, look, I can't do anything. And really what they should be focusing on is their local politicians, their local people, and deciding who should be in office at the legislative level or at the local level. And if they can attack that through the democratic process, then they can see change if that's the type of change that they want.
Yeah, I mean, what about a constitutional amendment to not sweep pension funds or short fund state pensions, which are the worst funded in the nation? What about a constitutional amendment to abide your commitment to provide for persons with developmental disabilities that the state does not abide? I mean, look at all the big ticket systems in state government and the functions of state government where there's general agreement that this is something state government should do or should provide. And none of them are respectful of the Constitution or respectful of Illinois families. But the balance of power is what it is.
Yeah, and it's not to say that the Constitution as it stands in Illinois shouldn't be amended. It should. I mean, the Liberty Justice Center, which I'm president of, is going to come up with a book shortly, probably right at the first of the year, that goes through how it should be amended and what liberties should be protected. But these are big items related to sort of all of our personal liberties, economic liberties, religious freedom liberties, and not related to specific, dollar spends or things that should be left, like you said, to the legislature.
Is it instructive at all that the vote to put this lockbox amendment on the ballot received overwhelming bipartisan support, and the effort to put, say, a term limit amendment on the ballot failed, and the effort to put a remap amendment on the ballot was challenged in court and defeated. Is that instructive at all?
I think it is, because I think you're talking about a couple different things, right? The sort of the remap and term limits is sort of politics, right? It's the nature of politics, whereas this road fund situation is directly to the pocketbook. It speaks directly to what people are worried about every day, where their money's being spent, whether they're going to have good roads to drive on, things of that nature. So I think getting outside the politics to what impacts them directly, it might have something to do with that.
But does it also have something to do with the political class? They overwhelmingly, in a bipartisan fashion, supported advancing this lockbox amendment to the ballot, maybe because it's in service of interests that are going to be helpful for them to retain their seats.
And the others are too.
And the others...
in the opposite direction.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other ones in the opposite direction don't seem to get as much traction because I don't see them on the ballot.
Yeah, I'm not going to term limit myself, right? And I'm certainly not going to remap myself out of my seat. But hey, if I can get some points or even
with the road builders and the
exactly
and
even
the
be able
trade
to
unions,
give out contracts and everything else, well, then that's a different scenario entirely. So yeah, that makes good sense to me.
Yeah, and that's another reason that I'm highly suspicious and will be voting no on the lockbox amendment.